morning from Adventure Van Expo in Hood River. Over here at the Jewel Adventures booth, and wanted to take you on a little trip this weekend, show you what we're up to. Got in last night and got all set up. Steph is, what are you doing? Working on things?
I am getting set up for your system checks that are about to start.
So I'm doing system checks here in a little bit. Ira's going to help me. Morgan over here is making everything beautiful with flowers, handpicked from her garden. Ira's up here. He's going to be giving me some help with some system checks here in a little bit. We're going to be going around. We had a whole bunch of people sign up for system checks. We're going to see if we can find some people who are having issues with their solar systems on their camper vans and see if we can help them. And we're going to take you along, maybe show you some tips and tricks for troubleshooting and stuff like that. But before we get started on system checks, I just want to talk about, what we're doing here. We're with Jewel Adventures, who are some of our installers for electrical systems. So they do electrical installations and stuff like that. We've trained them, we vouch for them. And for all of you who don't want to DIY your electrical system, they're who we would point you towards. And this is their system. And I'm actually going to go grab Ira, and he's going to talk you through what they've got going on in their system. Okay, I've got Ira now. So he's got his system. He just rebuilt this, kind of doing some R&Ding on this new enclosure and installation methods. I got a bunch of 80/20. It looks super clean and nice. Electrically, what do you got going on here?
Well, we have our kind of a weekender-esque size system here. It's 300 amp hours, a 2000 watt inverting power, alternator charging with the Orion, as well as 2 MPPT controllers. One for our larger roof array, one for a deployable panel on the ground, all through the Lynx distributor, and going out through an AC panel and a DC panel on the backside. All in a nice tidy enclosure.
And you've got it all set up through monitoring through the Serbo GX there, I see.
Yep, and we have it
Touch
all
70.
All hanging out with all information you could possibly expect or desire.
It's pretty early in the day right now, but we're still pulling in 275. Oh, it looks like that cloud's going away. That's fun. Nearly 300 watts of power through the 2 solar arrays, the roof array and the ground deploy array. Looks pretty fun. All right, well, let's go do some system checks.
Let's do it.
It's just a single.
So we're just checking out a system from Matt, and he just stepped outside. But anyway, he said his system was working pretty well for the most part, but just wanted to make sure that everything was working properly. And so everything looked nice as far as the installation goes. Everything was sized properly, everything like that. And Ira pulled up the Victron Connect app, and whenever we're looking at what a solar array is going to charge at and make sure it's working properly, I'm just going to pull up the Victron Connect app and log into his MPPT solar charge controller, and then pull up the history tab. And my favorite thing to look at on the history tab here is the P max figure. And you can see that yesterday he actually had 319 watts of solar coming from his solar array. And he only has 300 watts of solar up on top of his roof, which getting 319 watts out of a 300 watt array that means it's working perfectly. It's actually overproducing a little bit. And that's okay, there's nothing wrong with it. That just means that it was a little bit cool yesterday. So a 300 watt array is only a 300 watt array at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it was a little cooler than that yesterday. So a solar panel is going to produce a little bit more than that. So the system seems like it's working pretty well.
Works pretty well. Yeah, it's got plenty of ins, plenty of outs, and everything's wired properly. Just one quick setting change, get everything talking to each other properly, and he's good to go.
Off to the next one. Yeah.
I'm about to take a picture of
At our next system check, let me flip the camera around. We'll show you what we're dealing with. The issue we were dealing with was melted parts, and so got this guy right here. This fuse is melting right on top here, and after looking at it for a little bit, we've got a 3000 watt inverter charger here, and following the positive wire back over this way. Stephanie's trying to block the sunlight from coming in here. It's bright. Through this fuse, switch to here. And so we can see this wire is the one that is powering the inverter, and it is 2-gauge wire, which is going to be way too small for a 3000 watt inverter charger. So the fix here is going to be replace this entire circuit from here all the way over to the inverter with 4-aught wire. Did also make the recommendation here, because there's quite a few things going on with this, is probably replace this with the Lynx distributor for proper fusing, and that could probably be mounted right in here, maybe some double-sided tape on the back. But realistically, introducing the Lynx distributor into this system would allow us to get rid of a lot of this, as all of these fuses would become obsolete as they would be fused within the Lynx distributor in one nice neat spot. The other thing I'm seeing here is the negative wire coming off of this battery bank into the shunt. This wire here feeding the inverter is on the battery side of the shunt, which is going to make it so that the shunt doesn't know how much power is coming across this chipboard right here, and it's not going to be able to calculate a proper state of charge. So we're never going to know how much power is actually in this battery. So moving this to the other side, and then ultimately having this side of the shunt feeding the Lynx distributor, would allow the shunt to properly function so that it knows how much power is coming in and out of the battery bank. So here's our fixes there. Next system check. Got a truck camper here, and the main issue is a hot water heater that is turning off. Yeah, would you go through the process of turning that on? So go ahead and turn that on. Voltage is going to drop on here. Just a minute ago it was like 11.9 before it shut off. Here's the system while that's kind of working through its problems. Got 200 amp hours of batteries over here, through a Blue Sea fuse down there, up through the Lynx distributor here, through an inverter, a 2000 watt inverter charger here, and voltage is staying pretty good right now. And it's always nice on these kind of system checks that the systems have been built off of Exploris Life designs, because we know exactly what we're dealing with. Now it might not shut down because I've done a little bit of pre-work on this, but as I was messing with this earlier, I just noticed that this bolt right here, it was a little loose, so I was able to just spin it loose with my fingers. But the other problem I see that's going to be an easier thing to fix is we've got a lug, and this is to a chassis ground, right? So we got our chassis ground lug that's in between this bus bar of the negative bus bar of the Lynx distributor and the shunt. So we're going to have him move this to the other side. That way the chassis ground wire isn't in the way of the flow of power on the negative side. The other thing is, on top of this bus bar here, we've got a, let's see if you can see that, we've got a washer right back here in the way of the flow of power. So we're going to get rid of this washer. That way this bus bar is direct contact with this bus bar, and then get some washers to put behind this switch or some of the spacers that we sell in our shop, so that we can move this out so this is flush and there's no flow of power interruption by washers here. Now it's actually not heating up anymore because I did tighten it a little bit, but it was finger tight and it's working better than it was. So I do think at fixing those couple of issues, we're going to have a fully functional system again.
That's awesome.
Steph and I just got back to our shop from Adventure Van Expo, and I just wanted to share a few things that we learned there. And you know, we did 3 or 4 system checks that we shared with you, and we probably did about 3 or 4 more that I just didn't get on video for the sake of timeliness. And I think the main theme was have a plan. I think every single system that wasn't working properly, like really bad wasn't working properly, wasn't following any kind of plan. There was no regards for wire size in some of them, fuse placement. And you know, all of the plans that we have on our store and on our website and on our blog and all the tutorials that we have here on this YouTube channel, they all follow a plan, and the plans work and they're good. And regardless of if you're following our plan or somebody else's plan, you know, chances are if you're following a plan, you're going to be on the right track. So I would say that was the first takeaway. The other takeaway is workmanship. You know, have good workmanship. Just, you know, care about what you're doing. When there's wires all over the place and there's no regard for the wire length and how clean it is, and you know, some of them are electrical tape, some of them don't have any heat shrink at all. You know, it doesn't cost any money to like just make the wire runs nice and clean and make them make sense. You know, a cheap way to clean up your wires is zip ties. I mean, I know I said it doesn't cost any money, but zip ties are really cheap. I think that bag of 1,000 was like, what, 10 or 15 bucks. So that's another great way to show some good workmanship and some pride in what you're doing. If you do that, you're going to be already on that right path to have a system that's going to be working perfectly. And you know, aside from that is just understanding the system. There was one in particular, I think we shared it, I can't remember for sure, but the system was working fine. It just was showing no solar coming in, which the batteries were full, and that's a perfect thing. You know, the batteries are full, the solar's not going to charge because charge doesn't have anywhere to go. So that's a great thing, and it was just a misunderstanding of how the system works. And I think it was great. I think it was a great experience for me to be able to get in, you know, to some of these campers and get some hands-on and explain how this stuff works, and I always have a good time doing that. There's going to be another Adventure Van Expo that we're going to be at. If you're watching this the day it goes live, it's going to be next weekend in Evergreen, Colorado. We're going to be doing more system checks. We're going to have our own booth at this one. So it's going to be a good time. So if you're in the area, come and check it out. And you know, the Adventure Van Expo series I think is really cool because there's a lot of vendors there. You can get hands-on products if you're in the market for things. Even if you're not in the market for things and you just want to come look at cool campers, there's a lot of cool campers there. You know, vans from 50,000, you know, out in the camping lot, all the way up to whatever $300,000 plus, and it's fun to look at. I mean, you can always gain inspiration from all of those things, and you can take back and you can put it into your own project. Or if you just like looking at cool stuff, then there's lots of cool stuff to look at. But anyway, it was fun taking you on this little bit of a trip, and let me know if you like these kind of videos. We'll probably be doing a few more of these system checks and stuff like that, these types of videos in the future. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. And tighten your bolts, tighten your connections. We did fix two systems that simply had loose connections, a loose shunt connection and a loose connection at the CCP point of the Ford Transit. So tighten your connections. That's pretty important. Okay, that's actually all for this time. We'll see you later.